Now that the NFL season is officially over, the focus shifts to free agency, which is set to begin March 13th. Until that point, we all have to wait patiently for more NFL content and do things like this, speculate and predict what's going to happen. And in today's video, I'm going to go over the biggest NFL stars set to be on new teams in 2024. But a quick disclaimer, I'm gonna try and not waste times with players who are technically free agents, but it's super obvious that they will be back. For example, Chris Jones of the Kansas City Chiefs, Anton Winfield of the Buccaneers, or Josh Allen for the Jaguars. But with all that being said, let's kick off this list with Justin Madubuike, defensive tackle, courtesy of the Baltimore Ravens. Madubuike was drafted by Baltimore in the 3rd round of the 2020 draft and had a slow start to his career, but really came on in 2022 when he had 5.5 sacks. But this season, he brought his game to an entirely different level, having career highs in tackles with 56, sacks with 13, and forced fumbles with 2, while also making his first Pro Bowl and second team All-Pro. Only at the age of 26, I believe he's going to get an absolute bag this offseason and might have outpriced himself in Baltimore. The Ravens only have $7 million in cap space, but have a lot of players to re-sign as well, and CBS Sports projects him to get a deal worth $81 million. I think it's more likely than not that we see the 300-pound game wrecker on a new team come the end of March. Some potential landing spots are 2 AFC South teams in the Texans and the Colts. Both are looking to improve their trenches while having north of $60 million in cap. And a sleeper team that I've found are the Cincinnati Bengals. They have faced off against Madubuike 8 times in the last 4 seasons and may look to steal him from a division rival, as they also have $61 million in cap room and a hole now at defensive tackle. Mike Evans is up next, and the future Hall of Fame wide receiver is going to have a lot of suitors this offseason. Although this free agent wide receiver class isn't super deep, there are a few premium guys that will definitely be looking to cash in. In Evans' case, he just completed his 10th straight 1,000-yard season and really surprised a lot of people this year. With Tom Brady retiring, I don't think many people expected Evans to have better production with Baker Mayfield, but he did. Evans in his contract situation was a pretty big topic heading into this season, but there was no resolution between him and the Bucs. I'm sure they would like to keep the 30-year-old wideout, but I believe Evans will try and finish out his career with a contender, and I have one specifically in mind. The Bucs will definitely be in play. They have $43 million in cap room, but will also have to retain Mayfield and one of the best safeties in football in Anton Winfield. I think both of those guys will get priority from the Bucs organization, as they already have a couple of other solid wide receivers. Ultimately, it will come down to what Evans values more: another lucrative deal, maybe around $70 million, or winning another Super Bowl. If he chooses a contract, any team with a young quarterback will come knocking: the Tennessee Titans, the New England Patriots, the Houston Texans, the Indianapolis Colts, or even the Carolina Panthers, who hired his former offensive coordinator Dave Canales to be their new head coach. But if Evans does want to win another championship, the Kansas City Chiefs make a ton of sense to me, but he will likely have to take a pay cut to make it work. Now we have one of the biggest wild cards this free agency, which is quarterback Kirk Cousins. And if you just base this off of positional value, some might even say he's the best free agent on the market. Cousins has really helped his image as a player the last couple of seasons, in my opinion, by becoming a fan favorite through the Netflix show Quarterback and putting together some really nice efficient numbers with Kevin O'Connell as his head coach. Kirk has been getting the respect he is due. He's also going to be 36 years old before next season starts and is off a devastating Achilles injury, which does complicate things. But with how quarterback play has been for several teams, I expect some organization to shell out a 2 to 3 year deal worth close to $100 million for the quarterback. I personally do not believe it will be the Minnesota Vikings. I think they're ready to move on and start a semi-rebuild. They've been a team rumored to take a quarterback in the draft the past couple of years, and I expect it to finally happen this April. So if it's not the Minnesota Vikings, then who? It's got to be a team that thinks they're a quarterback away or not in a prime position to draft one of the top quarterbacks. And by the process of elimination, 2 teams come to mind right away: the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Atlanta Falcons. The Steelers have made it very well known already this offseason that they're very unhappy with the development of Kenny Pickett and will be bringing in competition this summer. The Falcons, on the other hand, have some solid skill position players and probably would have made the playoffs last year if they just had a solid quarterback. So those are 2 teams that I do see in the Kirk Cousins sweepstakes, but I'm sure there will also be a couple other teams in the bidding war for Cousins. And because of how good of a businessman Kirk Cousins is, I do expect the highest bidder will ultimately win. We have another star defensive lineman next in Christian Wilkins of the Miami Dolphins. Similarly to Justin Madubuike, Wilkins had a career year on the last year of his contract and is now looking to cash in. The Dolphins tried to get a deal done with Wilkins last offseason, but Wilkins decided to bet on himself and he won that dispute. He has always been known as one of the best run-stopping defensive tackles in football, but really made an effort this season to get to the passer, setting a new career high with 9 sacks and 23 quarterback hits. And now he's looking for a top defensive tackle contract, and I'm not sure if the Miami Dolphins can pay him that, as they are currently $51 million million over the salary cap. The franchise tag is in play, but I also don't know how the Dolphins can essentially guarantee Wilkins $20 million against the cap while facing their cap issues. So I believe in the end, Wilkins will walk and look to get around a 4-year, $80 million contract just like Madubuike, and the teams that need defensive line help that miss out on either Wilkins or Madubuike will likely to shift their focus to the other one. I expect the Texans, Colts, Bengals, or even the Bears to be some of those teams involved to sign Wilkins in just a few weeks. Another wide receiver due for a massive contract this offseason is Bengals wide receiver T. Higgins. He dealt with a lot of injuries in 2023, only finishing with 656 yards and 5 touchdowns, but we saw towards the end of the season with backup quarterback Jake Browning just how special T. Higgins can be. Still at only 24 years old, Higgins is one of the best contested catchers in football, and for a lot of teams with young quarterbacks, that's a perfect type of weapon to have. There has been some talk that the Bengals will franchise tag Higgins, but I think that would be to trade him and get more than a third-round compensatory pick that they would likely get by letting him walk. He's projected to get a 4-year, $66 million deal, but I think some teams, like the Carolina Panthers, would pay him a lot more for his services. Now, of course, still with $61 million in cap room, theoretically the Bengals could bring back Higgins for one more season under the franchise tag, but with Jamar Chase due a new contract after this season and Joe Burrow's cap hit continuing to increase, I really don't think the Bengals can afford Higgins long term. So as an organization, they have to decide if going all in next season is the right play or cutting your losses and getting something of value for Higgins while you still can. I think they know what the best decision is and will ultimately bite the bullet before trading him to some wide receiver needy team. The last player I'm going to mention in this video is our first running back, Derrick Henry. Now, I don't need to repeat the same talking points about the running back market and how bad it is currently, but at the end of the day, Henry is probably not going to get a super lucrative contract. With how Henry walked off the field in week 18, I believe his career in Tennessee is over. They're entering a new regime now with Brian Callahan as head coach, and I think he's going to want to hand the reins over to second-year running back Tajay Spears, who looked really electric last season. So I think it's fairly obvious that Henry will be on a new team next season, but then the question becomes, where? Henry is 30 years old, but he's not your typical running back at 6'3", 250 pounds. He's off yet another 1,000-yard season with double-digit touchdowns, and I think a few contenders will definitely look to add him at a bargain price. CBS Sports lists his value at around a 1-year deal with $4.3 million, which does seem super disrespectful for Henry. At the bare minimum, I think you can get what Dalvin Cook got from the Jets this past offseason, but even that was a pretty small contract. But as terms of fit, I see the Baltimore Ravens as a huge player for Henry. Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins are free agents. Why not get an upgraded version of Edwards for a similar price if you're the Ravens? Henry fits their physical in between the tackles running style, and could you imagine Henry and Lamar running the read option? That would be ridiculous and something really fun to watch. And the Ravens can also view this as the missing piece to finally getting over the hump in the postseason. So look out for the Ravens to make a run for future Hall of Fame running back Derrick Henry. But those are just some of the top stars set to hit the market in early March. If you guys want to see another video with a few more, let me know in the comment section down below. Also want to know where you guys think some of these free agents are going to end up. Do you think Henry ends up in Baltimore? Do you think T. Higgins is franchise tagged by the Bengals and he plays out the year? Let me know down below where you think some of these guys will end up. But subscribe to the channel if you are new. Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it. And as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.